Have you ever experienced moments of joy only to find that soon after, those same moments bring you unexpected emptiness or even pain? Do you wonder why, despite all our efforts to find lasting happiness, we often find ourselves chasing after fleeting pleasures, only to realize that each moment of joy seems to contain the seeds of its own eventual sorrow? Welcome back to the channel. Today, we are going to dive into a topic that affects each of us. Why do we seek temporary happiness that hides the seeds of suffering? This paradox is at the heart of much of our emotional experience, and understanding it can help us navigate life in a way that brings us closer to true, lasting contentment. The foundation of this discussion lies in two profound insights. First, the recognition that the happiness we often pursue is inherently temporary and fleeting, and second, understanding why this temporary happiness can lead to suffering, and how we can transform our approach to life to experience deeper, more lasting joy. Imagine this: you've just purchased a new gadget, something you've desired for a long time. You hold it in your hands, feeling elated, and for a brief moment, you are filled with joy. Yet, over time, the novelty fades. Perhaps it gets scratched, outdated, or even simply loses its charm. The joy you once felt quickly diminishes, replaced by a longing for something new or a sense of dissatisfaction. This cycle of pleasure followed by emptiness is what we often experience in our pursuit of temporary happiness. This isn't just about material possessions, it's about the many ways we seek satisfaction in life. We chase after achievements, relationships, and experiences, believing that they will bring us the happiness we desire. Yet, more often than not, these moments of joy are short-lived. This is because the happiness they bring is based on external conditions that are ever-changing and unpredictable. When we base our happiness on things outside of ourselves, we create a fragile foundation that is prone to collapse. So, why do we continue to seek happiness in this way, knowing that it is temporary? The answer lies in the nature of our desires. As human beings, we are conditioned to seek pleasure and avoid pain. This instinct is rooted deep within us, and it drives much of our behavior. However, what we fail to realize is that the very things we pursue for pleasure often contain the seeds of their own eventual dissatisfaction. Take, for example, the pursuit of external validation. Many of us seek approval and recognition from others, believing that it will bring us happiness. We work hard to achieve success in our careers, to build relationships, or to acquire things that will impress others. In these moments, we feel a temporary sense of accomplishment, and the validation we receive seems to provide a brief respite from the emptiness we sometimes feel. However, this validation is external, and its effects are fleeting. The more we depend on external approval, the more we tie our happiness to something that is beyond our control. This cycle of seeking external validation, experiencing temporary pleasure, and then feeling the inevitable dissatisfaction is what creates the seeds of suffering in our lives. The desire for approval, the longing for material possessions, and the constant chase for external accomplishments are all driven by a fundamental misunderstanding of what true happiness is. We look outside of ourselves for fulfillment, but true fulfillment lies within. One of the key teachings in Buddhism is the concept of attachment. Attachment is the root of much of our suffering. It is the emotional bond we create with things, people, and experiences, believing that they will bring us lasting happiness. However, because everything in life is impermanent, attachment inevitably leads to disappointment. When we attach ourselves to anything, we are bound to experience loss when that thing changes, fades, or disappears. This is why the temporary happiness we chase so often contains the seeds of suffering. But here's the good news: understanding this cycle of attachment and its connection to temporary happiness can actually set us free. The first step is to recognize that happiness does not lie in external conditions or possessions. True happiness comes from within. from cultivating a sense of peace and contentment that is not dependent on the ever-changing world around us. When we stop seeking happiness in temporary sources and begin to look inward, we tap into a deeper well of joy that is not dependent on external circumstances. This understanding is not about rejecting pleasure or joy, but about shifting our relationship to them. It's about recognizing that pleasure, while it can be enjoyed in the moment, is not the end goal of life. True happiness is a state of being, a way of experiencing life that is rooted in mindfulness, compassion, and acceptance of the present moment. One powerful way to begin cultivating this deeper sense of happiness is through mindfulness. Mindfulness is the practice of being fully present and aware of each moment, without judgment. It is about observing our thoughts, feelings, and experiences with openness and acceptance. When we practice mindfulness, we begin to see that our desires and attachments are just passing phenomena. They come and go, but they do not define us. By cultivating this awareness, we can learn to detach from the fleeting desires and attachments that bring temporary happiness and instead connect with the deeper, more enduring peace within. Another key to breaking free from the cycle of seeking temporary happiness is to cultivate contentment. Contentment is not the same as complacency or resignation. It is a sense of satisfaction and peace that arises when we fully accept and appreciate what we have in the present moment. When we are content, we are not constantly seeking more or better, we are simply grateful for what we have. Contentment allows us to experience joy in the simple things, whether it's a warm cup of tea, a quiet moment of reflection, or a walk in nature. These moments may seem small, but they contain the essence of true happiness because they are rooted in the present, in the reality of what is, rather than in the illusion of what could be. Gratitude is another powerful practice that can help us break free from the pursuit of temporary happiness. When we practice gratitude, we shift our focus away from what we lack and instead focus on what we have. This shift in perspective helps us appreciate the present moment and the gifts it offers. Gratitude allows us to savor the richness of life, even in the midst of challenges or uncertainties. By practicing gratitude daily, we train our minds to notice the abundance around us, rather than constantly seeking more. In addition to mindfulness, contentment, and gratitude, compassion is an essential ingredient in cultivating lasting happiness. Compassion is the ability to feel empathy for others, to understand their suffering, and to respond with kindness. When we extend compassion to others, we break free from the self-centered pursuit of happiness and connect with the larger human experience. Compassion is a powerful antidote to the ego's desires, as it helps us see beyond ourselves and recognize the shared humanity of all beings. By cultivating compassion, we not only bring joy and peace to others, but we also create a sense of fulfillment within ourselves. The true liberation from the cycle of temporary happiness comes when we embrace impermanence, understanding that everything, whether it's pleasure, pain, joy, or sorrow, is temporary, allows us to let go of our attachment to it. When we stop clinging to experiences, people, or possessions, we can experience life as it is, without the burden of expectation. We can fully engage with the present moment, knowing that it is enough. By embracing the impermanent nature of life, we free ourselves from the need to chase after fleeting pleasures and open ourselves to the deeper, more lasting happiness that comes from within. So, what does true happiness look like? It is not a momentary burst of pleasure, but a deep, abiding sense of peace and contentment that arises when we stop seeking happiness outside of ourselves. It is a happiness that comes from within, from living mindfully, from cultivating gratitude, from embracing impermanence, and from extending compassion to ourselves and others. As we deepen our understanding of why we often seek temporary happiness that hides the seeds of suffering, we must also reflect on the role of attachment in this cycle. Attachment is not just a surface-level craving, it runs much deeper than we realize. It shapes how we interact with the world, and it impacts every aspect of our lives. In fact, attachment is so ingrained in our thinking that we often don't recognize it as the source of our struggles until we begin to examine our relationship with it more closely. Attachment is not just about holding on to material possessions, as many of us might initially think. It extends to our identities, our beliefs, and even our sense of self-worth. We attach ourselves to ideas about who we are, who we should be, and how the world should function. We hold on to these mental constructs as if they define us. When the world doesn't conform to our expectations, or when we lose something we've identified with, we feel lost, vulnerable, and disconnected. This is the root of much of the suffering we experience. Take, for example, how we view our achievements. Many of us attach our sense of self-worth to our success, be it in our career, relationships, or personal endeavors. We equate our value with what we accomplish, and when we achieve our goals, we feel a temporary sense of happiness. But what happens when those achievements no longer provide the same fulfillment, or when we fail to meet our expectations? This is when the seeds of suffering begin to sprout. It's not just the loss of achievements or material possessions that causes suffering, it's the deep attachment to the idea that these things define us. We identify so strongly with our accomplishments that when they falter, we feel like we've lost a part of ourselves. This is the illusion of attachment. It convinces us that our happiness is dependent on external factors, when in reality, happiness is an internal state. The more we identify with our attachments, the more we trap ourselves in a cycle of fleeting pleasure and inevitable pain. To truly break free from this cycle, we must begin to loosen our grip on these attachments. But how do we do that without feeling lost or empty? The key is to shift our focus away from external markers of success and instead focus on cultivating internal qualities such as peace, contentment, and compassion. One practice that can help us break free from attachment is mindful detachment. Mindful detachment doesn't mean abandoning everything or becoming indifferent to the world around us. It means cultivating the ability to appreciate and engage with life fully, without becoming attached to any particular outcome. It's about enjoying the experience without clinging to it, knowing that all things are transient. For example, when we enjoy a beautiful moment, whether it's a sunset, a delicious meal, or a meaningful conversation, we can appreciate it fully for what it is in that moment, but we don't need to hold on to it or expect it to last forever. By practicing mindful detachment, we free ourselves from the constant cycle of desire and disappointment. We stop chasing after fleeting moments and instead embrace life as it comes, with all its beauty and impermanence. This shift in perspective also applies to our relationships. We often attach ourselves to others, believing that their presence or approval is necessary for our happiness. We seek love and validation, and while these things can certainly bring joy, when we attach our sense of self-worth to them, we set ourselves up for disappointment. Relationships are beautiful and vital to our lives, but when we attach ourselves to the idea that we need someone else to complete us, we create an imbalance. True love and connection come from a place of self-awareness and self-compassion. When we are whole within ourselves, we can approach relationships with openness and authenticity, without the need to possess or control. Mindful detachment also allows us to experience emotional freedom. Many of us hold on to past wounds or experiences, believing that they define us. We may be attached to our grief, anger, or regret, not realizing that these emotions, though valid, do not need to govern our lives. By practicing detachment, we allow ourselves to experience these emotions without clinging to them. We acknowledge them, feel them, and let them go. In doing so, we free ourselves from the weight of past pain and allow ourselves to live in the present. The act of letting go is not about rejecting life or becoming apathetic. It's about finding a sense of peace within ourselves, regardless of external circumstances. When we let go of attachment, we create space for true freedom. This freedom comes not from what we gain or lose, but from the understanding that our happiness is not dependent on external circumstances. It's about accepting life as it is, with all its changes and uncertainties, and embracing the flow of life without resistance. This concept of letting go is also deeply connected to the Buddhist principle of non-attachment. Non-attachment is the practice of letting go of the need to control or possess. It is the understanding that all things are temporary and that clinging to them only causes suffering. Non-attachment doesn't mean renouncing the world or withdrawing from life. It means engaging with life fully, without being controlled by our desires or fears. In the practice of non-attachment, we learn to see things as they truly are, impermanent, fleeting, and ever-changing. We stop clinging to our past experiences or future hopes, and instead, we live in the present. We engage with the world around us, appreciating each moment for what it is, without the expectation that it will last forever. When we practice non-attachment, we experience life with an open heart, without the need to control or possess. This openness is the key to lasting happiness. Another important aspect of freeing ourselves from attachment is cultivating self-awareness. Self-awareness is the ability to observe our thoughts, feelings, and actions without judgment. It is the practice of stepping back from our mental and emotional states, allowing us to see them for what they are, transient and impermanent. Self-awareness helps us recognize when we are becoming attached to something, whether it's a thought, a belief, or a person, and it gives us the clarity to let go. When we are self-aware, we no longer identify with our attachments. We see them as they are temporary and not essential to our true happiness. Self-awareness gives us the power to choose how we respond to the world around us, rather than being controlled by our desires or fears. It allows us to let go of what no longer serves us and embrace what truly nourishes our soul. By cultivating mindfulness, non-attachment, and self-awareness, we begin to experience a deeper sense of peace and fulfillment. We realize that true happiness does not come from external circumstances or possessions, but from within. It comes from our ability to be present, to let go of attachment, and to cultivate compassion and understanding for ourselves and others. This journey of letting go and embracing impermanence is not always easy. It requires patience, practice, and a willingness to face the discomfort that comes with change. But as we continue on this path, we begin to see the beauty in life's impermanence. We understand that it is not something to be feared, but something to be celebrated. It is through impermanence that we can experience the fullness of life, its joys, its sorrows, its triumphs, and its losses. I want to hear from you. How have you experienced the cycle of temporary happiness and attachment, and what steps have you taken to break free from it? How has letting go of attachment changed your life? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Let's continue this conversation and support each other on the journey to lasting happiness. Thank you for watching this video.